So we talked a little bit about what a relational database looks like. Let's take a closer look at how we might build and work with relational data in a database. So here's our database schema, and it consists of these four tables. And I just want to point out a couple of things here. One is that when we design a relational database, we usually go through a process called normalization, which is really just a fancy way for saying that we're trying to remove all of the duplication that might be existing in our data. And we want to make sure that each table represents a specific entity, and that each row within that table represents a specific instance of that identity, and that it's uniquely identifiable. So we can see that we've got our customers. Each customer has a customer ID. So that's our unique primary key that identifies each customer. And we've split out the first name from the last name. And we would also split out things like middle initial and telephone number and email address into separate columns in there. We've also got our products. And again, we've got a product ID. That's our primary key. And we've got name and price. And if there were any other attributes of a product, they would have their own columns within that table. And then we've got our orders and our items. And you can see that we've used relationships between foreign keys in our order table. For example, there's a customer ID foreign key in there that matches the primary key in the customer table. So that's how we make that relationship between those two things. So the key thing here is we've normalized the data. We've removed any duplication. So we don't have in the order table, we don't have the customer's name or the product name in the item table or anything like that. We rely on those keys to point us to the table where that piece of data is kept. So if it ever changes, it only needs to change in one place. So that's kind of the principles of our relational database. Let's take a look at an example of what we might do with that. And let's just focus on the product table for just now. And one of the key things you want to do is to query these tables to get information out of them. So we've got our table there. What I might do is I might submit a query using this language called SQL, or
Structured.
query language. And what I'm doing in this case is I'm asking for the product ID and the name from that product table anywhere where the price is greater than 2. So when I run that query, I'll get some results back. I'll get a result set, as we call it, which is basically a table of data back. And in this case, it's going to have the fields that I asked for, product ID and name. And it only has rows where the price was greater than 2. So in this case, it's just got that one result in there for Gizmo.